Boker Tov. Yom Tov, Zarim Tovim Laila Tov. I'm not sure who's joining us and where you are in the world, but I am on the West Coast and it is 6 o'clock in the morning. This is where I find the best time for me to study. It's quiet. Most of the world is sleeping where I'm at, or they're just rising, and there's just very little disturbance. And even in this morning, I'm hearing the birds sing outside, so it's a beautiful way to start. We have a lot that we're going to cover today, and it's going to be, we're going to have a whirlwind tour of some scriptures. And it's not going to be, as we discuss the Elohim today, it's not going to be the stories that you guys are familiar with. We will not be talking about the Anunnaki. We are not going to be talking about Enlil and Enki. And I will share with you why. It's going to be a story unlike what you have heard before, but I believe that we're entering into a time where people are actually beginning to have spirit reveal things to them. And we're challenging narratives that the mainstream is not really familiar with, in mainstream Christianity and what they teach. And so we will be challenging some of those things, but we're going to take it directly from the sacred writings themselves. Good morning, Brandon. It's good to see you here. So we'll be looking at the verses themselves and taking it in. Good morning, Jamie. Going through certain verses. I'm not going to hit every single verse into detail like I do, but we are going to highlight it. But some we are going to take a little bit more time on. And good morning, Treya. The verses, there's some verses that I've shared before, but recently there's been conversation that I've seen on Facebook regarding Elohim, and something that I said the other day regarding Elohim entering in through the waters of chaos, which is the veil of forgetting. So I want to make sure that I do show that, and hopefully I will have more mastered my software so that we can do this more smoothly than I have in the past. But regardless, we're going to get through this. So I wanted to start out and let you know something that happened. This was probably a couple weeks ago now. Time goes by so fast nowadays. The days just seem to be blending into one another. But I was showering, and when I was showering, I was just having a conversation and I was pondering about Elohim. And then my mind began to wander to the story of Enlil and Enki. And I heard very distinctly, "You are Enlil and Enki." And it really made me stop for a moment. I'm like, okay, we're Enlil and Enki. And then I heard again, "The past will anchor you. You must know who you are in your now." And then it was stressed again. Good morning, Karen, or good evening to you. It was stressed to me that we are Enlil and Enki. We are all of these past things that we have read about. And so when we try to search for answers and we try to look towards our past, we can get anchored into things that aren't going to really provide what we need for our now moment. It might answer some questions, but not entirely. I mean, how do you apply that to our now? Because there are things that are being revealed in our day and age that are so important for today. And what we are doing, I'm going to share Brandon's comment with you because I believe this. We are changing the narrative. And the reason why I'm saying this is that in studying the sacred languages of Hebrew and Aramaic and seeing what is that is contained within them, I can see how little was actually translated to us. Very little. In fact, when we are looking at the writings in English, it's only containing about 5 to 10% of what the words really are revealing to us. So, 90 to 95% is being left out. That is a tremendous amount of information. So all of these works that were translated from languages, whether it's from the cuneiform tablets, Zechariah Sitchin's work, or even some of the Gnostic texts, when they are converted into English, because English is such a low vibratory frequency, in fact, it's a dead language. It doesn't even show up on the measurement of cymatics, carrying a vibrational frequency that affects matter, and you lose 90 to 95% of that which is contained. Then you have to ask yourself, what is it that we're not receiving? At least critical thinking would say, could we potentially be missing some integral parts? The other part that we need to take in consideration is that translations are a mere reflection of what you have inside of you. So every single one of you, when you enter into translating these languages, you are going to find that from moment to moment, when you're translating things, that you are going to see greater things the longer you are in it, because it changes you. And as it changes your perspective, you're going to see things differently. So when I'm looking back into the sacred writings, I am seeing something entirely different than I would have and did 5 years ago when I started into this venture with my husband. And so everything that we see, we are turning it into the positive and putting it into positive steps that we can apply. So when we look at the sacred languages, the first thing I want to say to you this morning as we're looking at these, you need to make it personal. If you do not make this personal, then there is no way that you are going to be able to find the application, because this is directly speaking to you. It was written to you. It was written to me. And I look at it as that these were love letters written to me, but I'm kind of the romantic sort, and I've been blown away by love. And as my friend Jamie would say, being wrecked by love. And I totally agree. I've been wrecked by love. And so these writings are all a love letter personally to me. So I don't know how you want to look at them, but I do suggest, I'm not ever going to tell you anything. Um, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm going to make suggestions, because that's been the problem. We've been told how to see the scriptures. We've been told how to act. We've been told how to apply them. We've told that the Old Testament was thrown out and the New Testament is only what we're supposed to pay attention to. We've been told a great many things. So I am going to reveal and make suggestions for you to look at and then figure out how you are going to apply them in your life. That is the best way for us to be able to present this and to move forward with this. So again, my suggestion is to make it personal to you, as if it is speaking directly to you. That's when you can begin to see it, and it will change your heart and your mind to begin to see your surroundings differently, because every single letter has a vibrational frequency into it. It contains light. Light is information. So the more that you ingest this through your eyes, translating it through your heart, then bringing it up to your head and your feet, because it really starts within the heart brain. That's the way Eastern culture is. In the Western culture, we've been told to take a look at it through our head, through our mind, instead of our heart. And that's where spirit dwells. So if you really want the best way of producing life in your life, I love that, producing life in your life, then we need to look at it through the spirit and through our heart. And that's what I want to start with us this morning. So thank you for those who are joining in right now. I did want to let you guys know that if you are in Facebook and joining us, I cannot see your comments. And if you would really like to participate and make comments so that those who are in the chat room can see and you guys can have a discussion, and or if you have questions, you can put them all in capital letters for me. I will be glancing over from time to time to see if I'm missing something or if I need to bring more clarity, but all caps would be very helpful. So the YouTube channel right now that we're live on is the Stand 121, and I'd love to have you here and join in our conversation this morning. Okay, so again, just as a recap, Father was telling me that we are the history of like Enlil and Enki, and we need to move past that and bring things into our now to comprehend where we are, our call on our life, what we are to be doing, and we're going to connect a great many dots this morning. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I know I'm going to have fun. I don't know if you are going to. Um, I don't know if you're going to have fun or not, but I know I am. So let's start this morning party over a cup of coffee, or in your world, if you're in the evening, then it's a great way to meditate before you go to bed. So I've pulled up some scriptures here, and we are going to start with Genesis 1:1, because this is where everything started in our text, our sacred writings. And I'm going to lay the foundation for you. My husband and I have gone over Genesis 1:1 many times in previous teachings, so I'm not going to go into the detail with it. But it is very important that this is the first time that we see the word Elohim. And since that is going to be our focus today, I wanted to show you the first occurrence. And if some of you are familiar, I mean, most of us are familiar with the sacred writings in English, beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, in the beginning, Rosh is the word that means, this is actually the constituent letters that form the Resh. Now, if some of you don't know this, the difference between English and Hebrew and Aramaic, one of the huge differences is that, say, like you're looking at the letter G in English just is a G. It isn't made up of anything. It has a sound. It has to form together into a word that has to be defined, but every single letter itself does not have its own meaning to it, whereas in Hebrew it does. So this resh right here, it is spelled through constituent letters that came together to form a vibrational frequency. In creating a new frequency is spelled through these letters right here. Now that's a lot of information. We're not going to go in detail, but this is really meaning the resh, the head, the top, the beginning, the first, and it is connected to first fruits. So the first fruits in the beginning created were the Elohim, and the Elohim created the Aleph-Tav. Now, this was not translated. This is called the untranslatable mark. But those of us who have been studying the language, and even the sages, say that the Aleph-Tav is a summary of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's called the Aleph Bayit Ivri. And I will share about that on another day because there's a bunch of information just in that phrase alone, because it really is Father's language. And it is the beginning, first letter, and the last letter. So if someone was to say to you, uh, the alphabet, and then you would automatically in your mind think, okay, so the alphabet, we're talking A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z. Well, the Aleph Tav is the same thing. So whenever you see the Aleph Tav, you know that we're talking about the sacred languages themselves. But in this, we have Aleph meaning, and it means strength and leader. Tav means sign, mark, covenant, fingerprint, and signature. So when we put these things two together, the strong leader of the covenant, which is the signature and mark and frequency of the language itself. And we know that this is the covenant that has been given, connected to the covenants of promise that are given to the Elohim. That's another teaching for another day about the threshold covenant, and it is involved in the sacred Hebrew wedding, which is really about marrying our divine feminine and divine masculine together and becoming one. Because Aleph is also the letter and symbol for one. So oneness, unity, unified. It also is a symbol for the Tetragrammaton. I am going to be going into detail on that on another teaching as we actually start teaching the languages to you, which I'm still working on right now. But having said that, in the beginning, Elohim and the language, they go hand in hand. Now, we've laid that out. I want to take you to another verse. Actually, before I do that, there's one thing that I wanted to show you with this Aleph-Tav, because it's really important when we see what is going on with this. We need to take this word to the root, because you're going to see it translated many times just as Aleph-Tav, nothing else. And they said the untranslatable mark of the accusative case. Now, when we go down, that's actually not its root. So this is where we get the word self. So think about the ego here. The creation of the ego as self, because I know we talk about that a lot, and it's really good to have the origin of it because it is connected to the Elohim. So when we take it back to its root, the movement right prior to, I'm going to skip this one just for a second. We're going to go to the origin, to consent and to agree. Now, this is really fantastic if you can grab this. To come. So we have the Aleph Tav connected to the Elohim, And this root from the Aleph-Tav goes all the way back to meaning properly to comply or to come, and to assent, which means to agree. So what are we looking at? We are looking at there was agreement to come. The Aleph is connected to the Tav, that is connected to the beginning, Bereshit, about the first fruit leaders and head who were once poor and destitute, but were risen to the top, who came and created. Okay? The first and the last of the letters, the beginning and the end, that were connected to one another. Now, there's a vowel point there that in advanced teachings, we're going to go into more detail about what these vowel points are, because they're all significant as well. But now let's take it, since this was the root, this was the origin, this is the place of the lump of clay that needs to be formed and fashioned, or you could say 0 point, the place where there is no distortion. It is the 0 point energy, the place of balance, with no distortion on the right or the left, because we've discussed before about the importance of taking the right hand path versus the left hand path, and what both of those distortions do in the system of duality in order to bring it back to this place. Let's see what the first distortion or the first movement was. The very first movement of this was a different vowel point. Well, that's interesting. That is not where I wanted to go. I used the wrong button, but it's very interesting that Urim was there, because that has to do with light, the Urim and the Thummim. Ken has talked about that a lot. This is the first movement, and I'm hoping you guys can see this. I should have checked in with you. You guys are seeing my movements, correct? I think so. I do see your guys' comments, and I do agree. We've been talking about the past in the negative light, and we're changing it all to the positive. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take us back into where I was at, because I think you guys are seeing it. It says that you're seeing this right now. So let's take a look here. This first movement means a signal as a flag, beacon, monument, omen, prodigy, and evidence. So as a signal, beacon, mark, and miracle, this was the first movement after agreeing to come. And it is a different vowel point, and the vowel point, changing it, is kolam meli, the dot moving on the top, has to do with maturation, being filled up, set apart, set above, while being in the dream. I know there's a lot there. We're not going to go into great depth about that, but I know that there's probably many of you that have heard that what we are experiencing here is very like a dreamlike state as we've entered in. So this is a signal and a beacon for us to be able to see the first and the last, the beginning and the end, the Aleph and the Tav, the Alpha and Omega, a sign, signal, beacon, and miracle. So that, and then what happened? Well, when we take a look, the Aleph-Tav, self, it does not have the Vav. So the Vav is the place where we connect in the center of our as source. So in this, the Aleph should be connected to the Tav. The Aleph being one, the Aleph being a representation of the strong leader, with the oneness unity connected to the covenant. The Vav was missing. The Vav was removed, and that's the place of humility, meekness, and meekness, teachability, connecting to source in the center of our being. And what did we get left with? Well, we got left with what they called the untranslatable mark, but we got left with self. So this is when ego came in. So in other words, the Elohim ended up creating the self that was ego through the language. So when you hear that we are actually living words, we have books written about ourselves, is because we were made through the language. And scientists has even shown that the sacred languages, the Hebrew, is actually embedded into our DNA, and we can see that right here in the beginning, created. So now that we establish Elohim, let's take a look what we need to connect it to. And I have shared this before, but we are going to go further. I'm going to move into, hopefully you can see this going through. I'm going to just check real fast. It did not move. Okay. I need to show you these verses. So we're going to go back in, and I'm going to choose the verse so you can see it. I needed to check on this here. All right. Now we have Psalm 82:6. When Yeshua was talking to the Pharisees, and he said, "Does not your own scriptures say you are as gods?" And it was when he was referring to that they were saying that he was blasphemous because he said that he was the Son of God. And he used this verse to prove a point. And in the mechanical translation, it says, "I said, gods, you, and children of the Most High, all of you." The reason why I left this out, these are words that have been added for grammatical purposes only and that are not part of the text. It's the liberty of the translators to try to make the sentence so that we can read it. But unfortunately, sometimes when they add the words that they do, it actually changes the whole meaning. So most of the time now, when you see me share things, I'm going to not say these words because it was something that they added. So I said, gods, you are. And look at this. We have the Aleph-Tav. We have the Aleph-Tav. So just like in Genesis 1:1, we had the Elohim and we had the Aleph-Tav. What we have added to the Aleph-Tav is the Mem. Mem has to do with the waters of completion, the waters above, or the waters are upon you. And this is in the risen form. This is actually connected with Father's teaching here. And we have Mother right here. So this is the waters of chaos versus the waters of shalom. And the Aleph Tav that brings you the completion of your journey. And Tom, this word right here in Hebrew means to be completed. It also means to twin. So we have the twin connection here as well. The two covenants that have become one because we have a strong dagesh. This Tav is actually two that have been made unified into one. So the covenants of the mother and the father through the sacred languages, the first and the last, the beginning and the end, that complete your journey into perfection, into perfecting you as completed. That's really big. And I have shared before that this is the children of the Most High, all of you. Well, this word Most High means ascension. So this is children of ascension. You are, all of you. These are those who have been completed. They grasp a hold of, they yoked and tamed themselves to the living water teachings, and they completed their journey. So this is a very, very big verse for us to connect to. Again, I could go into greater detail, but I have many things that I want to show you. This is just review from teachings that I've done before that you can find on, if you go into the history of the playlist, you can take a look at this. It has to do with the sons of ascension, also has to do with the angel morphism. I have gone over this before. So let's connect it to another verse. And I know I'm going to probably have to pop out because of what happens. I may or may not need to, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to. Let's take a look here. And before I actually go into that verse, I'm going to check and see if you guys have any questions at this moment. No, it looks like this is wonderful. It's this. Thank you, Anio. The playlist, the Lucifer and Hillel, was very revealing. If you guys haven't seen these videos, I highly suggest it because it is definitely about taking that which was presented to us on the negative sense and seeing the positive side of it, of who we are. If all is all, then we are an encompassment of the entire Hebrew language as we apply it to ourselves. So I can see that you guys don't have any questions right now. Again, if you do, please put them all in caps. And if not, we are going to move on to the next verse because I think it's really important for us to be able to look at this. Again, if you're joining us on Facebook, please come on over to our channel on YouTube because I cannot see your comments. I wish I did. I believe there's a way I can do it. I just haven't figured it out yet. But we are going to continue moving on to the next verse. And let's move on to that right now. Okay, it's going to be in Psalm 8, verse 5. We will be pulling that up here. This was one of those that when I was looking into the Elohim, this verse came into my mind. I didn't even know what I was going to find here, because this was the one that man was made a little lower than the angels. At least that's the way it's translated in English. So I wanted to show this to you. For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels and crowned him with glory and honor. Well, the word angels is malach, mem lamed aleph kaf, or yeah, kaf. That is not the word used here for angels. It's Elohim. And you would never, never know that. And so when it says you've made him a little lower, what is going on here is that if we take a look at this word in its root, it says to lack, to be without, to decrease, to be lack, or have a need. Okay? So we are lacking and we have need. And why is that? Well, because we have the addition of the mem here. The mem in the Hebrew, paleo meanings of it means waters of chaos. So the Elohim were part of the waters of chaos, meaning they went into the veil of forgetting in order to experience their own creation, which when they entered into that, they had lack, they had need. And what did they need to find? They needed to enter in, being connected to Mother in humility, where they could be marked with her covenant, the golden rule, so that they could have the Father's revelation in the teachings, the deeper teachings, so they could connect in meekness. So we have humility and meekness connecting to Mother and Father, which this is really the Hey-Vav of Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey. And I will explain that in a minute. It's because we'll be going into Genesis 17 and also Job 38 before we finish up here. So the need was that we needed to have revelation come to us that was going to be the glory and honor in having us crowned through the revelation and being revealed as those who came through the waters of chaos and were crowned and revealed as those who have the crown, as the crown is the crown of light. And I've shared that before in other teachings as well, especially through the parable of the wise and foolish virgins, if you haven't seen that yet. Scratchy morning voice here. So this word a little means that there's few and fewness and littleness. And in seeing this, this is the waters of chaos that will show you what you need to deal with the fallen flesh, but you're going to wrestle. And in the wrestle with the snake in the basket, where you are surrounded in the earth, means that you are wrestling. Again, I just gave you paleo meanings of this letter, that you are wrestling with the seraphic message that came, the system of duality that came to mankind, Adam, while they were in the garden. Again, this has to do with consciousness, that they were going to wrestle because they had lower consciousness levels because they went through the veil of forgetting. And so very few are going to find and register that they are the Elohim. So if you are here and you are connecting to this message, then it is being revealed to you who you are and how we can change our narrative as creators, as the Elohim. But we need to remember. And that's why the living water teachings of Mother and Father are so important for us through the sacred languages, because it was the languages that we used to create and were created with that are going to help us remember who we are. The strong leader teaching shepherds that are going to be revealed as the goddess Yod-Mem is the word for sea, which is a symbolic reference to the Queen of Heaven, Asherah. And I have shared that before as well, that Asherah was cut out of things by King Josiah, which was the divine feminine, and we are having that revealed, coming back to us. So one thing that I do want to do before we move on is we need to move into the Elohim so that you can see the morphology of where this word, just like I shared with you, the Aleph-Tav with the first and last, beginning and the end, that it was agreed to come and then was to be a sign, signal, and beacon through the languages, but then lost that connection point and became self, where ego entered in. We need to see the morphology view of where Elohim came from. So when we take a look at Elohim, as you can see, it is used many times. As a matter of fact, it is used in the Old Testament 2,598 times. So there's many verses that are about us Testament, and it would be a good study to go through all of those. It is plural of Eloah. But before I jump into that, I want to show you something that is important for us to also understand. This section right here are forms and transliterations of the word Elohim. So if you did not go into the writings themselves through the letters, you would not see that Elohim has been written in all these different forms. Every single letter added, every single letter deleted has a meaning. And look at how many adding, deletions, vowel point changes, letters that have been added to the word Elohim. Look at how many of them there are. That is phenomenal to see. And all of these things contain information that you will never see in English. That's why I said that the scriptures, they actually leave out, you're only getting 5 to 10% through the English as to what you would be getting through the writings themselves, through the language. So when we look at this, it is plural of Eloah. And Eloah, Aleph-Lamed-Vav-Hey, is either God or God, depending on how you see this. So if you were going through Mother's teaching through the linear aspect, you would see God outside of yourself, because Mother teaches the linear fashion of how we align ourselves on the external side, how we orient ourselves. And Father teaches the divine feminine and how we orient ourselves on the inside. So you're going to see two different perspectives here between God and God. So this is prolonged from El. It's a deity or the deity. And as we move on, we can see that it is Aleph Lamed, singular. The very first time that we see this is in Genesis 14:8. And we can see that it has Lamed added in front of this, a priest of the God Most High, again, God of ascension. And all this is that we have a teaching shepherd that is a strong leader that has the staff of authority that instructs. So El, to demystify it, means the strong leader, teaching shepherd. So we're reframing even the way that we see God. Instead of it being outside of us as something that is too far for us to be able to attach to, we are now seeing how we can attach to it because we are it. We are it. But when we come into the veil of forgetting, there's much that we need to learn. And let's look at this. It's shortened from Aiel. It means strength and it means mighty. We're already talking about the strong teaching shepherds here. And where is this coming from? This is coming from the ram. And it means strength, anything that is strong, achieve politically. It's too bad that our politicians don't know this, because they really should be teaching shepherds, although they do think that they're gods, but they don't have the language to back them up, or they would be serving others instead of themselves. On a pilaster, strong support, an oak or other strong tree. And you can see that King James has translated this in many ways, but it has to do with strength. And pilaster, just to let you know, is a Hebrew idiom that is connected to the priesthood. And coming from ul, remember how the Aleph-Tav had that vav that was on the inside that agreed to come and to be sent? Well, this is connected to that, in that the Aleph that agreed to come would be a teaching shepherd. And it means to be strong, the body as powerful. So in the Aleph-Tav, connected as ego, now we have the Ul as El as being the body. So now we have the Aleph-Tav that has been made into a flesh body, having ego attached to it, but was meant to come as the strong teaching shepherds of light and love. I hope you're connecting to this, because this is very important that we understand where these words came from, who and what it is saying about us, about what was given to us to steward in this earth realm, in our body, flesh suit with ego, and what we are to do and to become as a strong leader teaching shepherds. So for me, it blows me away to see this. So as the strong leader teaching shepherds, we are to be revealed as Asherah, as a Queen of Heaven seated on the right hand of the Father, but it also is those who bring forth the Father's revelation that gives power to complete the journey in the waters, entering in through the waters of chaos, which is the womb matrix, and then being delivered into the waters above of shalom. Huge, huge, huge to see that. So, any questions on that so far? Because this is really big. If we can really grasp a hold of this, and again, I wanted to do this early in the morning so that we can actually meditate on this all day, because this is a discussion we are going to have over and over and over again, making it very personal to us as our love letter that was written to us for us to remember who we are. And so for me, when I see it in writing, because I'm very word oriented, I have to have the spiritual side to be able to discern these things, but because I am word oriented, this is like the blueprint of what I've been wanting. And yes, Deb, you have missed Asherah. This was a teaching that I shared in the Sacred Wedding. In fact, it's part 7a. And also, my husband, if you look on the Excavation at Dawn, we have a teaching on there specifically of Asherah that you can see. And specifically in the Divine Sacred Wedding, part 7a, I talk about some of the things that they recovered, archaeology that had Asherah in it and what it means, and how scripture in Deuteronomy was actually changed to hide Asherah, because they did not want to have the divine feminine. They did not want to have the duality. So, mother and father, they took the mother out of it and just left father, hence the strong patriarchy that we have been under. And that was I'm not going to say it was a mistake, because we've learned through everything. It is giving us the ability to have wisdom, and having strong patriarchy in the linear fashion helped us to build. Well, now we need to build up that which we built through spirit, which is the divine feminine aspect, both in the golden mean, the golden ratio between the Fibonacci sequence and the golden mean, that is part of creation. So it's very important as Elohim that we comprehend both of these things, that Hebrew is the linear and that the Aramaic is the spiral of creation, and why we need both of them to be unified within us to be able to change our reality. So we don't have to be living into what we are right now, because we have the ability to create something different. First of all, we need to understand who we are as Elohim, as co-creators, because we're doing this together. And then we need to make sure that we move forward with this. So, yes, the patriarchal system was dominant in the Jewish culture, because again, if you go back into the history, into the historical records, King Josiah came to become king at 8 years old. And he started making decisions when they found certain things within the temple, the writings, the sacred writings, because he wasn't instructed in the code system. They took the surface interpretation of the language and created a worship system way apart from what was originally given, the time of what David had, what Solomon had, what Abraham had, and the divine feminine was very much in there. Asherah was in there. And if you read about the historical accounts, King Josiah obliterated and eradicated all references to Asherah, the Asherah poles, the Asherim, and it was about the people becoming that aspect. There's something that was lost in translation, that all of it was reduced into having this external factor instead of the process of our own becoming. And it's interesting because you can see that without knowing who we are, we've been controlled and we've been dominated, because the ego is easily controlled and manipulated through fear. Take a look at what the day and age that we're living in, of things that came about in 2019 that are now in the forefront of 2020 and 21. I don't need to mention that. We've all lived through it, but it has been about fear, and it has been about controlling the people through the ego. And that's why the Aleph-Tav has to have that connection back into it, because as being strong leader teaching shepherds of the one of the covenant through the language, we need to connect back with source and realize that we can change the narrative. We don't have to live through the fear and manipulation. So this is very critical for us to grasp a hold of everything that I just said. So now I want to be able to share with you um, something in the New Testament. And yes, Lisa, I totally agree with this. And a lot of that is take a look at in the airwaves what they're projecting upon us. And so if we look at the mainstream narrative of what they're projecting upon us, it's all fear-based. All of it is fear-based. And we are now entering in and have entered into the age of light and love. And love is the complete opposite to fear. They aren't even the same frequency. So now let's look at a New Testament scripture that I think is important for us to also look at. You've probably already connected it if you're word oriented, but I want you to see it because it's important for you to see it. Don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you letter by letter and verse by verse, because it's really important that we see these things. We are going to go into the Peshitta, which is the Aramaic writings of the New Testament. That's what they were originally written in, for those of you who are not familiar with that. We were told that it was Greek, but it was not. It was Aramaic, which is the divine feminine aspect. And as a matter of fact, the Aramaic, the older fashion of it, the form of it, called the Asherit Katav. So we went from the Paleo, well, it's considered Paleo, but we had the pictograph form. Then we went into Paleo. Then we went into the Chaldean flame letters, then into modern Hebrew. All of this changed because of the different zodiac signs that we were under. And so we are getting the fullness of the revelation of this movement through history. But the Asherit Katav is what Egypt used, and it is what Thoth, Tav, Vav, Tav, is how his name was written, is how he wrote the Emerald Tablets. Yes, this language was part of ancient Egypt. That was also kept from us. So in the Asherit Katav, in the what you would now know is the Syriac, which is the modern Aramaic, this is what we are seeing in how it's written in the Aramaic form, but letter for letter, they translate the same. So the Aleph in the Syriac is the same as the Aleph in Hebrew. Again, we have the feminine aspect and the masculine aspect. I chose to present it to you through the Hebrew letters because it's the ones that people are most familiar with, not so much the Aramaic. But look at this verse. I am the Aleph and the Tav, says Eloah, the Lord, who was and is and who cometh, the omnipotent one. We are not going to go through this whole verse, even though it is extremely telling. I wanted to show you, here's Aleph and here is Tav. So when I was showing you in Genesis 1:1, we went through that whole thing. If you guys are coming late, please go back and look at the beginning portion of this teaching. This is the letters, the constituent letters that form the symbol Aleph. These are the constituent letters here, minus the Vav, because that is translated as and. The Tav Vav is actually how you spell through the constituent letters, the symbol Tav. So I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, because it does come later in the verse, but I did want to show this to you to connect to the book of the revealing, Giliana. Giliana is the unveiling and the revealing of those who have the power that have risen flesh, that are walking in the Mashiach, the Christ anointing, that are unified as one. That's what the entire book is about. And it's connected to the language, the Aleph and the Tav. Very important. So when we say, I'm the Aleph and the Tav in the beginning and the end, well, we just saw that the Elohim is in the beginning. So the Elohim are being revealed in the end. And that is why I needed to share this with you, because we are in the time of the end of the epoch to switch us over into the age of light and love. And we need these frequencies so we can manifest it, so it can come sooner than later. Hopefully you guys are catching this. I'm going to pop back out because we're going to close out of the Peshitta, but we are going to go back in, and then we're going to start looking at a couple verses. We're going to go into Genesis 17, which the Spirit gave to me, and then I saw some conversations on Facebook about a passage in Job, and I went ahead and put my eyes on it, and I was blown away. And so we needed to see this. It was very important. I know. That's funny. Liz, that's funny. I'm sharing that with people. Yeah, I know. Facebook, I was off of it for like 9 years, and the only reason why I entered back on it was so I could share the languages and be able to reach a larger audience, instead of this obscure little YouTube channel. And it's still obscure. There's not many subscribers, and I only have my husband and I only have about 100 to 200 people that watch the videos, and 200 is on the generous side. Sometimes there's more. Like I've had Jacob Israel share a couple of our videos, and we got a big pump. We got boosted up because of that. But really, it's not everybody is drawn to the languages, but there is a frequency, there's a vibration that's going forth, and the letters and the languages are calling people that are to steward this. And so if Elohim has been something that is entering into you, well, the letters are they're literally calling out to you to remind you that you were in the beginning and you are being revealed in the end, so that we can clean up our mess, because we entered into that which we created to experience it, and we need to fix our mess. We need to fix it. And so that's why I'm sharing these things with you. So now I want to move in. I'm just going to scroll really quickly. I don't see any questions. And yes, thank you. I'm glad that um, I'm not a fan of Facebook, but yes, I wouldn't have met many of you without it. So it's a very beautiful tool, and it's really good that we were able to connect there. Telegram, I'm not familiar with it, Joe, but I might look into it because it's a good suggestion. I'm wanting to get this message out on many platforms. Has nothing to do with me. I don't really care that people know my face or know my name. I want them to hear the words. I want them to be drawn into the language so we can begin to study it itself. And yes, what happened in the garden is entering into the veil of forgetfulness. But that's a whole nother story. And we are going to talk a little bit about that in this Genesis 17:1 about Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey and some of the things that were mistranslated. I'm not going to take us back into Genesis, into that. I'm not going to, because we've done it before, but it's outside of the scope of today. I would be on here for like 2 hours, and we're probably going to go for an hour and a half. I was hoping to end it in 15 minutes, but it's not possible. That is just too much. Too much. Facebook name, I'm under Carrie Husband. Thank you for saying that. I will show this on here. You can just find me under Carrie Husband. I have created a page. I haven't done anything with it yet. I just created it yesterday, the Stand 121. So people that are just wanting to deal with being part of a group, it'll be a joining only. It's not going to be one that I'm just going to broadcast out, because it's going to be ones that really want to partake of the sacred languages. But I will get to that later. So let's jump into Genesis 17:1. This is a very big verse to look at, to start out with, and to see what's going on. And then we're going to jump over into Job 38. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to take the captions off because there's no need to do that. Although if you have questions, please put them all in uppercase letters so that I can answer them for you. So moving into Genesis 17. All right. So this is the passage about Abraham having the Lord appearing to him. Now, it's really interesting to see, because you don't see a lot of this in the English translation, because I already shared with you about how much Elohim was all the letters, all the morphology of what happened. But the Lord, we're going to dive into this so you can actually see it. We're going to go through, and of course, it's not going to allow me to do it. There we go. I'm going to pop out real quick and make sure that it followed through with this. Oh, good. It did. Okay. So when Abram was 90 years and 9 years, he then appeared Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahovah, Jehovah, lots of different ways you want to pronounce it. It's the Tetragrammaton, which is a Greek word that just means the four letters. Abram said to him, I am God Almighty, walk before me and be blameless. We're going to take a little bit of time on this verse. So I'm going to skip down. There's much that can be said in the first few words of this, but I want to show you about Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey. We have shared this with you before, and for some of you, this is going to be new. But Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey is actually the seraphim messenger that was in the garden. So thinking again, analogy, a seraphim that came to mankind in order to teach them the way in the system of duality. We were told So many errors about this that we were like, wait a minute here, the tree of good and knowledge, good and evil, the knowledge. When it said that Eve, Chava, considered it, she considered it that it would make her wise. And a lamed was added in front of the word consider, which is like the same word that they used to say foolish. But it also means to regard, to think about, and to consider. And it had an added lamed in front of it. That added lamed means to instruct in the way to make wise. And so the translators decided to leave some of that out because the lamed is directly connected to the language of light and love. It is the part of Le'or the New Testament version of Jerusalem, which is the instruction of light that brings peace. So it was very important for this message to go forth. So Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey is a seraphim messenger that has two faces of the same coin, meaning part of it is the presentation of Mother's teaching and then Father's teaching that have been unified into one. And when we trace this down into the root of Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, you guys need to see this. This is huge to connect the dot. It is from Hayah, the self-existent or the eternal Jehovah, Jewish national name. But what is it coming from? Let me make sure that it followed this. And it did. It means to come, to be, and to become, to come to pass. The revelation of the mother connected to the power of the vision that connects to the revelation of Father, to be, to become, and to come to pass. This is the root. This is the static lump of clay, 0-point energy place that manifested into Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey. The seraphim messenger, the seraphic angelic messenger, the burning one, translated as serpent, and it was seraphim that was coming to bring the teachings of the mother and father in the system of duality to help us remember who we are and to how to navigate our own creation because we went through the veil of forgetting. Are you guys connecting to that? I hope that you are. Because it's important when we see this that Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey came to Abraham. Look at this. Look at this. Here's El. So the seraphim messenger came to the God Abram, to him, again, El, and said, I am God, Almighty. So the seraphim messenger, as Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, said, I am a strong leader, teaching shepherd, just as you are, the Almighty, Shaddai, El Shaddai. This, I don't know if you're shaking your head, but I get a little loopy when I look at this stuff because what it is revealing to us, the blueprint and becoming, to be able to see of what is being shared with us, making it personal, about to apply it to us. It is our roadmap in becoming and walking as Elohim. What was being said? So the seraphim messenger came as El and said to El, Abram, you are powerful and to be burly, but again, system of duality, we're always going to have two sides to every single word, dependent on what path you choose to take, serving self or serving others. So, I am God, the strong one. And then it's the word halach, walk before me. Halach. What was added to it was the Hey-Tav, the revealing of the covenant that will reveal to you the teaching instructions, but you must empty out your cup first so that you can appear for me as a teaching shepherd of light that has been given power. And you shall be, here's our Hayah, but look at this. This is the same gematria. So every single letter in Hebrew has a number value to it. And every single word that has the same number value to another Hebrew word are related to one another, and they need to be taken in consideration. These are the same letters of the Tetragrammaton, but they're in the reverse order now. We have Vav-Hey, Yod-Hey, instead of Yod-Hey, Vav-Hey. All coming from the same root word of Hayah, which was Strong's 1961, to be or to become. So now, connecting to the revelation, the power that is between both of the revelations, mother and father. There is a principle too about the covenant of the pieces, which is actually directed right here with Abraham, because the covenant of the pieces, where the flaming torch walked between the pieces of mother and father, again, the seraphim messenger that walked between the pieces to share the twin sides of the teachings. It's all connected to that. This is the same pattern. So when you see the same letters that are divided and there's something on the in between, it is a message from the seraphim that are trying to tell us something. What they are saying here is that connect to mother in humility. The revelation of the mother's teaching and the revelation of the father's teaching, which are part of Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, two sides to the same coin, two presentations, divine masculine and divine feminine, are meant to give you power, because that's what Yod represents, power and vision on the inside of you so that you can become blameless. Again, the word blameless isn't exactly what it's said as well. To be complete and sound, to be entire, and look at this, integrity and truth. Now, King James decided to use the word perfect. We have our own words of what perfect is, and that has caused a lot of problems thinking that we can't make any error when this is talking about walking in integrity and in truth. And again, this was all of what King James decided to translate it as when it means integrity and truth and entire. So in walking entirely and morally with integrity and truth, because the truth is being revealed to Abram of who he is, to be completed or finished. And again, we were talking about the Tav Mem on that one verse we were looking at, and where it was Aleph-Tav Mem. Well, here we go. This is actually the root of what that word is, and it means the covenant of mother and father through the waters of chaos to the waters of completion, the living water teachings of mother and father that are meant to complete you and to finish you while you are here. And what are we doing? We are revealing the process of becoming Elohim and what allows us to be formed and fashioned in that, so that we are walking in truth and having integrity, so that we appear before as connected to and becoming seraphic messengers ourselves that will be appearing as teaching shepherds of life that have been given the staff of authority. That's huge. So quickly, I will make a covenant between you and me, to multiply you exceedingly and great. I don't want to go through that verse, although one word that jumped out of me that I want to say, I forgot, is here's that Aleph-Tav we were talking about, that morphology of the Tav that decided and agreed to come, that is now a sign, signal, and beacon. So I will multiply you. I will multiply the revelation of the Father's teaching. I will multiply all of you to be signs, signals, and beacons, miracles, but you must empty out your cup and grasp a hold of the power and empty your cup of the lesser language, because Kaf is spelled Kaf Pei. Pei is the mouth that speaks revelation. This is the fallen Kaf. It also means a vessel to be filled or to be emptied. So emptying ourselves of the fallen language so that we can grasp a hold of the Aleph through the Tav, connected to be the first and last, beginning and end, the signs, signals, and beacon, filled up, having connected to our heart. But you must empty your cup of the lesser narrative and the lesser language to grab a hold of the power of the greater. That's also huge. Did we follow that? Yep, it's still following it. That's wonderful. Okay, moving on. Fell Abram on his face, and look, 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 look. And fell Abram on his face and talked with him, Elohim. The way the translators translated this, the whole passage of verse 1, 2, and 3 is about Abram, who was El, becoming Elohim. And the reason why we saw that is because his name is going to be changed. This is huge to grasp a hold of this. I've had somebody ask about the Nephilim, about the fallen ones too. So the very first word in this verse means nafal, to fall and to lie. But that's, again, what they wanted to translate it to. Again, we're talking about integrity and truth here. But we can see that there were some things that Abraham did about lying about his wife. But it just means to fall. But here's the deal. When we're looking at this, when we entered into the veil of forgetting, our consciousness was decreased because we forgot who we were. So it was a fall in consciousness. And part of it is it was a great lie given to us about what happened, because when you look at the word itself, nafal, this is big. The resolve always comes through the letters itself. So if there looks like there's something negative in connotation, you can easily find the resolve. The noon, the spiritual path through the languages that are elevated, that bring forth revelation and instruction. So falling into this lower realm to experience, we forgot, we need to find the spiritual path found within the sacred languages, the elevated language that have a vibratory frequency, not the fallen languages of English, that bring forth instruction, giving us the staff of authority. I'm hoping you're connecting to that. Now, when it's written, the noon is removed, but the yod has been put in place. So when the noon is written, which is like seed of life, activity of life, progeny, perpetuity, this is actually speaking to us specifically of a highly spiritual nature that doesn't pertain to flesh at all. This doesn't pertain to the flesh. And so connecting to connecting to mother in humility, two twin visions of power came through the sacred language meant to pierce him and instruct him, Abram, so that he could ascend, so he could be the face of power that would be connected in meekness to the Father, that would now speak, because that's what Dabar is, that would now speak in humility, having power given to him. Yod Dalet is the word, Hebrew word, meaning the hand. It also means the work and deed of the hand. The work and the deed of the hand that was necessary in order to speak that which brings forth, it also is a representation of word, to be able to speak the word, having gone through the door of the inward man, revealing the weak and feeble position, to deliver ourselves from that, to build ourselves from the inside out. Bet, here's our Bet Tav, our 222, two pass-throughs of the 22 letters. The first one of Hebrew, the second of Aramaic, that build our temple, because this is a representation of the temple itself, building ourselves through covenant to raise us up to be first fruit leaders. And we have the word bar, which means to be winnowed, the winnowed grain, think of the barley bride, to be purified, selected, and to feed upon that which forms us, which is the word. Now we have same gematria of the sign, signal, and beacon, but the Vav is now on the outside, meaning connected to Father through the sacred languages, the Aleph through the Tav, the two twin covenants of Mother and Father that have become one. So now the strong leader of the covenant, marked with a different signature frequency, now having the power of the Father in meekness as Elohim. Now speaking as a teaching shepherd of light, because the Lamed was added in front. So the first three verses of this passage is speaking about Abraham becoming Elohim, because it said he was El. He was a strong leader, teaching shepherd, but he didn't have the Father's teaching yet. And it wasn't revealed to him about being Asherah, about the Yod Mem, about the power that comes from completing the journey. He didn't have it. So this was telling him the instruction of what happened in the symbolism of what gave Abraham the ability to have his name changed, because there was something given to him that he didn't have before. Yes, I am going to share some of this. So again, Nephilim, the way that it was sent, the way that it was produced, is that there was a lie associated to us that the Nephilim meant something bad. That the Nephilim were those who came that were to present the spiritual path through the sacred language in order to instruct mankind in the way of becoming and connecting to the goddess through God, the Godhead, the male and female aspects, and they twisted this whole story around. So we are taking the lies and bringing them into the truth of what was the original intent that got hijacked, twisted into the inverted verse, the perverted verse, which is really the English translation, to restore it into the universe, the unified verse, the one verse, which is all of us being unified into oneness. So this is a very, very, very big revelation to see that we need to. And yes, the being able to be validated on the outside, well, we need to see it on the inside. Yes, Deb, I totally agree. It would be easier to be able to read the reading Hebrew, but I'm going to just share a little secret with you. I don't read it, I can't read it, and I can't speak it. I can't read it by a book, like a book. I can see the letters and the movements and the definitions. I was given the ability, just like my husband, to see the movements of the letters and have this revelation revealed to us, but yet we can't speak it and we don't read it like a book. So if we are getting this revelation and it was made manifest to it, you can see it as well. We just start doing it one at a time, because the revelation of this language is going to come and we will be able to speak it. But again, we went through the veil of forgetting and we're trying to learn. But right now, the revelation needs to come so we can compress more light, push through that veil of forgetting, remember who we are. I've had some memories come back to me of previous lives, which has been very helpful to me to heal some of my things. But, and yes, it would be better if you guys could learn Hebrew, the letters themselves. I am going to start a teaching on that sooner than later. I've been saying that for a while, but I needed to be able to figure out how I needed to start presenting it. But I still wanted to keep bringing these revelations to you. So let's get back on track here. So very important that Abram got this information to be able to see that he was Elohim, to be able to understand what he was going to be doing in pursuing what was necessary to continue, because he was the father, Father Abraham, father of the patriarchy, and he needed to pass this on to future generations. So let's jump back in to see what happened. We're not going to go very far with this, but I wanted to show you the name change. Talking about covenant, that is another conversation for another day. But he was going to be the father of many nations. And again, we have that Hayah, that same Hayah, Hey Yod-Hey, which is the root of Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey. But this time we have the pattern of the cherubim together, the cherubim, which is the Ark of the Testimony. So when you see two letters side by side that haven't been separated, this is the pattern of the Ark of the Covenant, also known as the Ark of Testimony. So we have the cherubim being represented here in connecting to the revelations, the two powers that come that allow us to be marked with the sine wave signature frequency of Father's teaching, which is now the power that is given through Father, not Mother's golden rule, but that of unconditional love. That would be the Father of many nations of the Goyim. And again, Lamed was added to the word father, which means he would be a teaching shepherd of light that would bring the staff of authority and would be able to teach the way of one to build ourselves on the inside and build our temple, becoming one with the Father. I and my Father are one. Right here, the instruction of becoming one with the Father. That is amazing. So Abraham was going to be passing that on to his lineage, to future generations. This is when his name was changed. And again, we have the Aleph-Tav connected in there. So the sacred languages allowed his name to be changed, but he needed to empty his cup of that which he thought he once was, just as El. And he was going to be from Abram, which means exalted father, the exalted father. That is a son, an heir to the throne that has been winnowed, selected, purified. And you shall be, here's that tetragrammaton, Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey again, you shall be called Abraham. This is in, him means the likeness of, in the likeness of. But now he has revelation that has been given to him on the inside. And the very first three letters of this is the same gematria for creator, to create. So we have the exalted Father that has revelation on the inside that is connected to whom that creates. In the beginning, Barashit. It's all connected. In the beginning, Barashit Bara. And then we have the Aleph-Tav Elohim. So very important to see that. I don't think I went as far as 17:6 because, I mean, there's more and more here. Oh, I did want to point this out to you. So that he was going to be made fruitful, and everyone would be made fruitful from the Father's teaching, which is the hidden teaching. You got to go through Mother's teaching. The hidden side is what I'm actually revealing to you today through translation. I will make you good, and I will make nations of you. Again, I will make you instruct nations, goyim, those who are the sojourners in the world that want to complete their journey in becoming Asherah, and kings shall come from you. And this is kings that don't have the fallen cough, because king by itself has a fallen cough. So king singular, those who rule through the fallen languages, they may have power, but it's a lesser power because they are, mal means to be filled up with the power of the lesser language, versus those who are the Malakim, who grasped a hold. They emptied their cup of the things of the lower world. They were tamed. They wanted to fill their cup with the power coming from Father through his teachings, because they were found as those who give, and have now entered into the waters of completion. Wow, wow, wow. So that was what was given to Abraham that was to be passed on to future generations. That's so fantastic. So when you think about this, oh, that's good. I want to share some of these. I know you guys are following in here. Yeah. Thank you, Renegade. I love you. Knowing Hebrew has not helped those who know the language. Yes, that's true. I actually have some people that are, one in particular, Marita. I love her. She spent 30 years with the Hebrew language, and she did not know that this revelation existed within it. So it's been pretty amazing to see. And yes, Enoch, the first Enoch does speak of the Nephilim as well. But again, those works that we read are translated in English. And because they are translated in English, they only bring to us 5 to 10% of the revelation of what is, well, that's interesting. Sorry, reading comments. So the translations, even in the book of Enoch or the book of Yasher or the book of Jubilees, it's all been translated into English, and you're only getting 5 to 10% at the most of what was really written. So let me see. I'm still going down here looking to see if there's any questions. First Light, an introduction to Meru Foundation. Yes, the Meru Foundation does talk about the Hebrew languages. It also talks about the pole shift. That's why I generally don't suggest people to go there, because I am not wanting to bring fear. It's a huge aspect that I'm trying to avoid, because that is part of ego. And perfected love casts out all fear. So you can go see the Meru Foundation, because a lot of that revelation did come through the sacred languages for them. So now, in going from this point, so we talked about Abraham brought forth that it's changing him into becoming Elohim, that he was El, and it was Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey that was talking to him. Now we, looks like my husband's joined us. Hi, Ken. It's nice to see you here. Yes, we are the pole shift. That's funny. My husband's on the live stream here. So if you guys want to say hello to Mr. Ken husband, he is under Acts Fit to Lead. He has entered the house and has been watching that up sheet. It makes me smile and laugh. Anyway, that's really good. I love you, Ken. I couldn't be doing this without my husband. We journey in this together, and it's been amazing. And I'm very grateful to have him in my life. So now let's move into Job 38, verse 1. Sorry, I'm just a little emotional. Anyway, we're going to jump over into Job 38:1, because I think it's really important that we see where this is going through, because my friend Renegade, Miss Ellie, decided to bring this scripture forward to me, and I wasn't familiar with one. I haven't spent a lot of time in the Hebrew in Job, but when we see where it's going, it will bless you, and we're going to finish up with that. So I know this is a long teaching today, but it's really important that we see this. So in going into Job 38, taking a peek at it, we are going to start at the beginning of this chapter. We are going to highlight some of the verses through the way. We're going to end up on Job 38. Hold on just a second here. We're going to go through Job 38, 1. We're going to start, and then we're going to end up with verse 7. So, and answered Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, Aleph-Tav, Job. Ayob. I want to share with you guys that Job's name, it's important to establish this to be able to understand, because my husband is sharing some things right now about going through affliction. And as we get more of his compass teachings out to you, you'll be able to connect to this and then connect it to Job itself. Because his name means to be hated and persecuted. And when we look at it a little bit deeper here, to be hostile to. So I want you to take a look at this, because there are many of us who have gone through persecution, and we will continue. But this is actually encouragement to us. And the reason why we have this, and we have this affliction coming to us, is because who we are. And because of who we are as Elohim, there are those that are the shadow controllers of the world that don't want us to understand who we are. And so they try to oppress us. And they really do have the hatred, because we are creators, and they do not have that ability. And so they have to manipulate us and control us using our energy to create a reality that they want. But they're really jealous of who we are. And that's why they don't want us to know who we are, because as soon as we know who we are, they get sealed under this glass ceiling aspect, and we rise above it. And we are the pole shift, as my husband said, where we are changing the principalities and powers. Instead of being under, we are then over, and we become the rulers. Rashit, as in Bereshit, means ones who are the rulers and authorities, the principalities and powers that create. So connect to that. That's very important. Again, this is a very long teaching today. If you needed to pop out, I totally understand. But we are going to go through a couple more verses. I'll open up for questions, and then we will finish off today. So answered Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey to Aleph-Tav, to Job the persecuted. So again, make this very personal to yourself here. So when answered Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, again, the seraphic messenger of the teachings of mother and father, divine feminine and masculine, to the persecuted that were created through the language, the Aleph-Tav, first and last, beginning to end, the strong leaders of the covenant. It's interesting that this word here, you've heard us talk about the Bayit Anoth, the temple of answers. Well, this is coming from the Anoth aspect, but it's in a fallen noon state. And so what is this? It means to testify and to respond, but it also means to be a witness. So Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey is speaking, but this has to do with the lower flesh. And I find it interesting that the gematria for the word ayin, or the symbol I, the ayin, and it means I. Here's the gematria right here. Same message. So answering or saying to those who are persecuted, so that you have the eyes to see power that is being given to you, a double power, because it's a double yod here, is going to be given to those who are teachable and humble and connect to mother first, and connect themselves as the bride. That's what this little symbol is referring to the teachings of mother and father through the sacred languages. This is given to those who are persecuted. I'm not going to go into depth the rest of this, but it's interesting because my husband speaks a lot about the whirlwind. And I'm not going to go into detail on that today, because he shares that and is going to be continuing to share on this. But I want to show you the forward movement of what these verses are saying. So again, speaking to the persecuted that are in the fallen flesh state right now, which is our lower form, our flesh bodies. Who is this darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Well, the darkened place, the chazak, this is the hidden place, the revealing of that which is hidden. So my husband has said that the form of worship, what we worship, is having bowing in reverence to that which we do not know. And that which we do not know, because we went through the veil of forgetting, is that which is hidden in the darkness, because we don't have the light to see it yet. So the Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey was coming to the afflicted to say that there's darkness that you have because you entered into the veil of forgetting. You went into the waters of chaos, but you need counsel. And the counsel comes from the Father's teaching, etzah, advice, and it has the hey on the suffix side. So again, what is hidden and what has been in the darkness is the Father's revelation that He's coming to bring us so we can see the journey and the path that is going to be revealed to us through words. This is different than dabar. This is the word malel, which is connected to honey. This is the sweetness that comes from that which will build us on the inside. If we go through the living water teachings meant to instruct us, the twin teachings of light, two lameds here that are a gift from God, that little diamond on top means the gift of the God to us to make us quadrated as the 144,000 who will have power given to them while they are in the flesh. But if you don't have knowledge, this is without, but this is the word for heart, but this is an anxious heart, a fearful one that is prone to terror. So again, talking about how the controllers manipulate us through fear, this is an anxious heart. So it has on the inside, there's an authority that makes you anxious. But if you build yourself through these teachings, it will give you power as the betrothed, the bride, that will bring you intimate knowledge. This is da'at. Any of you who have seen the tree of life and the Kabbalah system, this is the hidden sephirot, the one that is of intimate knowledge that is tied to the Greek word gnosis. This is knowing the Father's covenant. So it's revealing the hidden teaching to you so that you can intimately know it and be marked with His signature sine wave frequency of unconditional love through His teachings. So moving on, making sure that we're following, and we are. How are you guys doing? Yes, they find the dark by the way of the light. Exactly. Thank you, Ken. I am so glad that you are putting your comments in here. Please pay attention also to things that Ken is adding because he's helping assist on this by sharing some other deeper messages. And I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you're sharing. That means a lot to me. Yeah, only dark absorbing light. I love that. We have to have the balance between the two. It's very important. So continuing moving on in what we are sharing here. Prepare now like a man yourself. This is a very, very, very big verse. And this is a shout out to my husband in teaching about the compass. The word prepare now like a man. This is leading us to our crescendo point of our teaching here. This is the word etzar. And etzar, to gird, to encompass, and equip. Now, I want to share this with you because I was looking at the word encompass. And the word en, when you add it to a prefix of the word, it means in or within. So the inward compass, and compass is a word that my husband was sharing the other day when he looked in the etymology of it, means journey together. So the compass in orienting ourselves, as he's been teaching about, is the compass that is within that we are to gird ourselves up in and equip ourselves with. This is the oneness principle, the sword in the plow, cutting that which no longer is serving at the plow for the fallow area on the inside so seed can be planted in order to raise us up from being poor and destitute to be first fruit leaders. This is what girding up is all about in reorienting ourselves to the way of the East. I'm going to have my husband go into detail on it because it is such a beautiful, fascinating teaching that needs to be known to those who are the Elohim. So prepare now, taking the spiritual path into the way of one, like a man. Now, this word man is a strong man, a warrior. Think of Gibborim. So when we connect Gibborim to Nephilim, they put it in the negative sense. These are those that take the spiritual path, that speak forth the language that reveals the teaching shepherds that are the strong men. So he's saying, gird yourself up right now, like the strong man, because you don't know who you are. You must grasp a hold and tame yourself, yoking yourself, filling your cup with the sacred languages. That is what you are to gather, to wean and ripen yourselves, the water teachings that are going to instruct you of how to build yourself on the inside to raise you up as one who has been winnowed. And winnowed is different than thresh. Winnowed is barley, the first of the first fruits that have been purified and selected. These are the mighty men. You are the mighty men yourself. So what do we have here? We have loins, seat of virility. So girding up your loins, we can see what that is. Chalats in the sense of strength. To withdraw, go down, to pull off, to strength. This is very important. Again, compass teaching, when Ken talks about stripping ourselves bare, entering into mother's teaching, to deliver ourselves and to equip ourselves for the fight, to present and to strengthen. So this whole thing was talking about strengthening him. And yes, talking to a seed because we're about prodigy. We are talking about future generations, but in our, we need to grasp a hold of it. Again, make it personal to you. Grasp a hold of this like a mighty man and equip yourself. It's going to be important. You need to find life. Chet, which is connected to the brotherhood, but this is also connected to Chava that was pulled out of Adam. You need to find life of the covenant so it can instruct you and teach you, urge and goad you on into the journey and path where you hunt and chase that which gives you power, power from the Father, but you must empty your cup so you can be filled with that which is going to make you mighty. These are the two words that mean power. This is one that means to give, and this one is the one that takes. But you've got to empty your cup out in order to find life because you are questioning. Look at this, you guys. We have the word, the root for Sheol right here, Sha'al, to ask questions. So again, we've got Job. We've got those who are being persecuted. We are asking questions. Why? And because we have been hit by fire, so there's the persecution that causes fire in our life. We are inquiring and trying to ask questions while we are in hell, because Sheol, that's the root of it, is translated into Hades and hell. That's where we live right now. We are in the place where we are in the consuming fire of El. Again, entering into the place that we created, needing to find the oneness principle that will instruct us. But again, empty your cup. The diamond is above that, saying if you empty your cup of the fallen languages and grasp a hold of the power that comes from the ones that bring revelation, it is going to be a gift of God to you, given to you while you are in the place of Sheol in hell, where you are inquiring. So if you got burned, you need to connect to Mother and humble yourself. Be teachable in the ways of one, because the Aleph was added to the prefix of this word, because Mother starts you in that journey in the oneness principle. And then we have the word answering one more time. That was the same in the previous verse where we talked about the temple of Anath and answering. This is incredible to see this because this is part of that Anath. But look at what the root of this is, you guys. Incredible. Yada. Yada. This is the same root for da'at, the intimate knowledge of the covenant. It's the same exact word. And so this is intimate knowing through experience, which is yad. There's our constituent letters for the little symbol here. And it means the work and deed of your hand so that you will know and see the purpose of why the power was given to you to enter in the door to the inward man, revealing your weakness so you can be delivered of it so that you could see. Have the eye to see the fountain that is within you so you can intimately know. Well, what are we intimately knowing? Well, by connecting to Mother, she reveals to us the way that we need to go through the golden rule so that we can be filled up, having gone through the door, giving power on the inside of intimately knowing, now having our flesh changed into risen flesh that now has power from the Father. So this is power on the inside coming from source as creators and the Father's power given to those who give. This is the Vav-Hey from the Yod-Hey. So this is connecting to Father. It's Mother's job to start us in this journey, in the place of asking questions so that we can be given the answers that we need. How are you guys doing out there? This is huge. There's a lot of information. I've been going on for an hour and a half. We probably have another 45 minutes. Doesn't Jesus talk of intimate? Absolutely, Yeshua talks about intimate knowing. This is the whole purpose of what he was trying to teach us, was to know that you and the Father are one. Intimately know that you are one with the Father. Intimately know that you are an Elohim, that you are Elohim. So very, very huge to see these things. So now moving on into our next verse, and then we'll be skipping 5 and 6. I'll just run over them completely because I want to land the plane on verse 7. And Ken will like this if he's still in the house, because we have the word poo right here. So he is going to be talking about Wehene Puach, Winnie the Pooh, the story. It is all connected to the golden compass that he's teaching, and we are going to be going into details. So this is bringing in the Pooh story as well. And where were you? And again, we have that Hayah that we were talking about, the root of Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey. So what are we seeing here? This is, Aleph Yod is the word for islands. The islands that are unto themselves. This is sovereign language, the mouth that speaks revelation, that is revealed, the twin powers. Again, we've got the pattern of the cherubim, of the ark of the testimony, that have been marked in the Father's covenant, because you went into the dark to that which was the hidden teachings, marked with a different frequency than the rest of the world, because you have gone the way of the light and the dark in order to become one with them, seeing the whole system of duality, which Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey, the seraphim, came to teach us, and laying our foundation. Yesod is foundation. This is the very first Sepharot that you enter into in the bottom of the tree of life, which is Mother's teaching connected to the moon, and the Father is to the sun, the Shemesh. So you have to have your foundation laid first to build yourself on the inside, your foundation that will give you power while you are in the earth. And again, this is a shortened form of the word light, the light of the earth, because it is in a fallen nature right now, but we are all ascending, including the earth. We are bringing forth light and love, the principle of one, where we are raising ourselves up, which will affect the journey in the earth for everyone else. I love this. It is, tell me if you have understanding. This is huge to see this, because Nagad means to be conspicuous. Let's go down so you can see the fuller definition of this. To stand, so in front, to stand boldly out opposite, to manifest, to announce. This is a huge, huge word, to expose, predict, explain, and praise. Okay, lots of definition in this word, but the noon has been removed. But that means that it has nothing to do with progeny. It doesn't have to do with being heirs to the throne or anything of that. Because the noon is removed, it has nothing to do with the flesh. This means it is a highly spiritual matter that is meant to be a gift from God to the quadrated, to the 144,000 that are going to be revealed, that are going to be conspicuous, that are standing boldly out against and opposite to the fallen journey that has been found within the earth realm, which is the path of materialism. These are those who stand out opposite, that are going to be gifts from God. They are going to be the doors that bring this revelation, and they will be revealed as those who were weaned off the milk. They ripened themselves, and it was two gatherings of things that they assembled to raise them up, because the gimel also means to raise up, to gimel themselves. I love that. To gimel themselves, to rise themselves up as a gift from God, to be a door of revelation as they come as mothers in the earth. This is Aleph Mem is the mother. So the mother who is one, who has completed the journey, these are those that are going to be in that beautiful position as mothers who do intimately know Yada, that know the covenant, and they have discernment, understanding. This is from Binah, Chokmah, and Binah, wisdom and understanding, the top of the tree of life, because they've gone the way, they've built themselves on the inside, they found power, they went through the spiritual path where they have raised up their flesh from the fallen nature, and they have the Father's teaching and revealing because they were marked with it and they were pierced with it, and they will be revealed as those who have understanding. Do you guys follow that? That is incredible. And yes, trees are also genetic lines, family tree, yes. So again, this is talking about progeny. Think about epigenetics. I did share with this with you guys before, that this language affects our DNA. It is literally encoded into our DNA. Science has found this. They have proven it. I am not making this up. Shows up in somatics. So the vibrational frequency of the letters affect matter. So when it affects our DNA, it does affect progeny, because through epigenetics, as our DNA is changed, we are passing it on to future generations. That's why this is so important for us to get this revelation that we are Elohim, so that we can pass it on to future generations to change the narrative. Instead of having the Aretz of the fallen nature, we can then change it back to Adamah. So the one blood that reveals mankind as being Leor Shalom, the teaching instructors of light that bring the way of peace. We have the ability, and it's through the sacred languages that changes our DNA so that we have the elevated flesh that we can see right here in understanding Binah, to be able to make this change for future generations, thinking ahead, not just selfishly in our now, even though it is a very much now subject, because we saw that with the Na, the Nun Aleph. It is in our now, bringing it in our now for our future generations, starting with us today. This is really, really important that we get this. And yes, Lynn, our families are being healed now because of what we are doing. And yes, the reason why they're wanting to destroy our DNA is because of what we hold in our DNA. That's why I'm not going to go into it. We all know, we are aware of what's going on in our world right now with with the prick, the skin prick of what they're wanting to do with the RNA. This is important that we get these revelations, because what is happening to our DNA is so profound, because we are compressing light within our bodies. I've shared that with the teaching with you, that light is in the blood, that blood is congealed light, and that is directly connected to our DNA. So everything that we're looking at in the sacred writings through the letters of light and love are affecting us in our today. So now let's go ahead and take a look. I can't follow, you guys are like getting very animated in all your comments, which I'm loving seeing you guys here. I just can't follow it all because I want to land the plane. Let's go back into this. So again, Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey is coming to Job to encourage Job, to get Job to remember who he is, to rise up as being inflicted. So there's a lot more about what's going on here. So I'm not going to go into great detail about verse 5 and verse 6. I'm going to point out a couple things that are in here. Mainly, we have the yada again, but this time in this next verse, it's intimately knowing mother's teaching. So we have both mother's teaching and father's teaching. And surely you know. So key is also a burning and a brandishing that comes from the seraphim messenger. And again, that's literally one of the translations of this configuration of this vibration created through the Kaf and the Yod, grasping a hold of the power as one who gives, that intimately knows the mother's covenant. Again, in the way of one connecting to it. So more that is being built upon this, and it has to do with ascension. That is the word to ascend, having power on the inside. So we have Yod-Hey, again, mother's revelation that helps us in the process of ascension, knowing the purpose, seeing the purpose of the instruction of the letters of light, the teaching shepherds that come to goad and urge you on, giving you the power that you need to ascend by revealing it to you as those who will be revealed as those who ascended, because the power was given to them on the inside as source creator. And then I did want to look at line, because this is another huge word here, if you can connect to it. So it's a cord for measuring, a rule, a musical string or a chord. All of this, just to connect with you, I literally found that our DNA, each one of us has our own musical string that comes through as our DNA plays music. It plays music. Song comes from our DNA. So this is connected again to it. Look where it comes from. It comes from kava, to wait for, and enduring, waiting, strong, strengthen, to endure, remain, and to wait. Those who are waiting, we are in the process of waiting right now for the full revealing to happen, because the hay was removed from us in the garden, the Father's teaching, because we needed to hunt and chase after it in order to find it. That's what Chava was all about. Chava being taken out of Adam. She was life of the covenant, the mother of all living, carrying a hold of that teaching, the hay, that would bring us and entering us into life. Because when we entered into the flesh suit, this is death. We live in death because our flesh suit has an expiration date on it. My husband and I have been trying to bring this forward so that we're not afraid of death, because really, when you die, when you lose your flesh suit, you just entered into life. So in the place where we are waiting and longing for our bodies to transform into light, what do we do while we wait? We compress light. The Kuf is all about compressing light within you in the circle of time by finding the narrow path between the light and the dark, that which is hidden, now revealed in the circle of time, meaning an orientation of a year, 6 months of mother, 6 months of father, or a lifetime, or even moon cycle. We're always compressing light within us so that we can connect to that which has been hidden to us in the darkness. And we're waiting to be revealed as the light by finding the light first, shedding light into the darkness, and then having that revealed into us. Huge, huge word here. And I'm not going into, but it's connected to our ascension process. So moving on, skipping ahead. Now we are into 6, and we're talking about onto what foundations were fastened. So this is the shortened form of the ascension process, and it also means to be upon what? This is the root of the word manna. What is it? It is the teachings of the living water that brings revelation for what foundations? You guys, this is a word right here that means sovereign. So connecting everything in the process of the Elohim, of who we are, starting out as teaching shepherds of light, just as El, the entering into the oneness principle that instructs us, connected to becoming sovereigns. Yod-Hey, mother's teaching, but this is on father's side. So this is mother and father on the same side that are the sovereigns, as the seraphim messengers that are setting a foundation for us to become messengers that have power and will be revealed as the sovereigns who have power. That was the foundation that everything was fastened upon. In the beginning, created Elohim. This is the foundation of sovereigns standing in our ascension process, and who laid the stone of the corner. Now, very important. My husband is talking about cornerstone. We've mentioned it many times. This is a different spelling of it because before it had the rosh in it, oresh. But look at this stone. This is father, Ab, and Ben, son, that are the same. The stone of its cornerstone. Let's go into this, and then we'll land the plane with verse 7. Pinah. A pinnacle, a chieftain. A chieftain. And it's feminine of pen. So I want you guys to connect that. So a corner. The cornerstone, meaning to turn. To turn. We've used this before in the word shuv, to sit, to turn, to dwell as one is married, but it's feminine of the word meaning to turn. So it was feminine as, let's show it again, pinah. You guys, this is the same word that means face. Same exact word. To face. As the corner, as a chieftain. This is the divine feminine that brings the power. The mouth that speaks revelation through the spiritual path the two twin paths, the two spiritual paths of mother and father through the Hebrew and the Aramaic that elevates our flesh, and that will be revealed as the chieftains, as the headstones, the cornerstones. And look, so we've got this, again, the elevated journey, the spiritual path, the flesh that has been changed, not in fallen flesh, but now risen flesh, completely different nature to our skin, to our being, marked with the Father's covenant of unconditional love, and will be revealed as such. Again, when we see Father and Son, it's a frequency, not meaning that all of the male identity is this. This is a masculine and feminine principle that are being revealed as the cornerstones. Divine feminine, divine masculine, having become one. So again, this was instruction coming to Job, and we're going to land the plane on this. I'm going to go back into the studio and see what you our guys are looking at. Man, you guys are just, I love the fact you guys are really active in the comment realm. I really wish I could have just recorded this and then just been in the comment section with you guys. I'm going to have to go back and read all your comments when I'm done, because you guys are very active and I appreciate it. And yes, fear of death is the biggest mode of control. Exactly, exactly, exactly. So taking a look at this now in this last verse, and this is the one that I wanted to, well, I love this comments. Thank you, Ken, for jumping in. I appreciate you being here. No, this is recorded. This should be recorded. It will show up on my YouTube channel, and it should show up on Facebook as well. So this is going to be, you can replay it because there's lots of information here, and it's very long. We're at an hour and 47 minutes. It's a very long teaching, but we went through many scriptures so far, and we're going to land the plane here. So when sang together, so in looking at the beginning of this verse, I was sharing with you that our DNA each has a specific song that is played, that is identified as us individually. And we were talking about the Aleph-Tav showing up as self, the agreed to come. Aleph-Tav Elohim, those who were created through the instructions found within the sacred languages. Elohim were made with the language. It's in our DNA. We have our own inherent song within us. And this very next verse talks about saying. Oh my gosh. Let's jump into us so we can land the plane and you guys can continue on with your morning. This has been long. I'm going to probably have to take a nap because I'm a lot of energy sharing here. It's been a lot of fun, but there's a lot going on here. When sang together the stars of the morning and shouted for joy, all the sons of God. This is an amazing verse. When sang together, I'm going to use the word akad first. Unitedness. Sorry. I get emotional when I look at these things because it's so beautiful when we can see what's written. And it touches me very deeply. A united from Yachad. To be united. To be or to become one. So in the beginning, we were all in the beginning, and then we became divided as self when ego came in. But we are remembering who we are so we can enter into the place of being unified again once together, which is the power that is given to us by finding life, chava, to the chet, where it means offense and being separated, those who have found life and those who have not, who grabbed a hold, and the hand that was giving them the power being presented to them so they could find life by being those of the brotherhood of the door, those who would enter in through the door, find where they were weak and feeble and deliver themselves of it, that came together as one, the one as the stars. And when we talk about song, this is beautiful to see what this is. It's from Ranan, which means give a ringing cry, to shout usually for joy. So we are shouting for joy when we build ourselves on the inside, raising us up from the foreign destitute place out of our lower flesh nature as being heirs to the throne, those who have been winnowed, purified, selected as the pure and the innocent ones that built themselves on the inside as first fruit leaders, that connected to the oneness, even while they were in the lower flesh, you guys. This is talking about us as stars being here as star seeds in our flesh, in uniting in oneness. This is our now. And then we have the word boker. So you heard me say this morning, boker tov, which means good morning. But we need to see this here too, that we go into this because boker, boker, means to dawn, morning, the break of day. But look at what the root is, you guys. This is why my husband and I get up early. To inquire and seek. So in Sheol, when we're asking questions, what are we doing? To plow, to break forth, to inspect, admire, care, and consider in the morning, to search out. And these are the stars of the dawn that build themselves by compressing light, raising them up. And we have a ringing cry, shouting for joy. Ruah. To give a shout and to give a blast. To split the ears, to shout for joy. Resh vav ain. And so what do we have here? We have that diamond again as a gift from God. We have connecting to mother in humility, connecting to father in meekness, having been given power on the inside, the twin visions that gave us the power to raise ourselves up to be the 144,000, the quadrated ones, having power on the inside, having the eyes to see, and between the covenant of pieces, walking through there's seraphic message between mother and father that are saying, connect to this, connect. First in humility and then in meekness, which is power in control. And we're ending up with this. All the sons of God. This word coming from Kal-El, the name of Superman, which means perfected and completed. Grasping a hold, being pierced, filled up, tamed and yoked to the light brings revelation that instructed them to be completed and perfected as the sons of God, as Elohim, building themselves their temple through the spiritual path that gave them the power to now become the strong leader teaching shepherds that are revealed, having the Father's teaching of the seas, of being Asherah, of being completed, seated at the right hand of Father, who were in the beginning, who are in the end, the first and the last, the Aleph and the Tav, the Elohim now revealed, that are all unified together as one, singing our song while we are in flesh, shouting for joy. So this whole verse and this whole passage in Job 38 was Yod-Hey-Vav-Hey speaking to Job for him to remember who he was. Now, when we read it in English, it looked like he was really shutting down Job, like, how dare you complain, and were you there? But really, in the written sense, the seraphim came to Job to say, let me tell you who you are, you who have been inflicted, so that you can rise up and know that you are Elohim. You were Elohim in the beginning, and you are Elohim right now, and you forgot. So let me remind you. That is what the seraphim / aka serpent came to teach us. And we were told things that were not true, lies, nephal. So it was meant as a spiritual path to bring forth the language of light and love, to teach us the way to become the Gibborim, the mighty men and women, the Elohim that have raised up in the power given now in the waters above instead of the waters below, out of the chaos into the place of shalom, where we are taking our power back and walking in our sovereign authority because the foundation was already set for us to do that as the Malachim, as the Malachim, the angel messengers that are going through the process of becoming seraphim ourselves, in the process of the teachings of Mother and Father to raise us back up from the place of where we once were to where we are going to who we are now. I hope that encouraged you guys. That was a lot. Again, we need to divorce ourselves from the past and history and grab a hold of who we are today and recognizing it so that we can produce this and have it affect our future generations by doing it right now in our families, starting with us first. This is amazing. So you guys have any questions right now? I am opening this up for questions. Please ask. If you don't have anything, that's great. I didn't really see any questions when I'm looking at the question or looking at the comment section. I'm not seeing anything, and if there were, I'm sure my husband jumped in and shared because, again, we are walking this out together. His revelations are so fantastic. So just to let you know, as I end this up here, the way I see is very linear in fashion, and the spirit, I'm trying to take a hold of the spirit more and fill up my linear messages, where my husband is very spiral and he is taking the linear to be able to form it together. That's why we've come together as a team, because we help assist one another in our building process, not only in our marriage, but in being able to bring these languages to you. So it's been an amazing, amazing process. So anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. And 2 hours, it's a lot. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate your comments, and I look forward to when we can meet together again. Shalom, shalom.